Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have you here. Thank you for coming on a day that second worst traffic day in Santa Clara County, or in San Mateo County ever, second to the earthquake. We know it was an effort for all of you who drove in this morning. You're here. I'm George Manthe. I'm AXA's Assistant Executive Director and one of the leaders, one of the conveners of this organization and this event. Just for a second, if this is your first time at Lead 3, could you just wave? Give us a wave. Look at that. And if this is a trick question, but who's been here 6 years or more? Uh-oh, this is the fifth one. Mike, would you come up here and join me? Oh. I wanted to do a visual here. Do you see any generational issues going on? You're right, I'm a lot younger. That's it, that's all I just wanted you to see. Mike did the opening session this morning, and he got me thinking about something. I am old enough to have learned PowerPoint and young enough to have learned it for the second time. If you noticed Mike's presentation this morning, I just look so passé with what I'm about to show you that I just wanted you to know that it's come around. This is on purpose. We are in San Mateo County, and to welcome us, I'd like to introduce the Superintendent of San Mateo County Office of Education, Ann Campbell.
Thank you, George, very much. Well, in my official capacity as San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools, I am truly delighted to welcome you to San Mateo County. I hope it didn't take you too long to get here this morning, but we did try to wear our very best weather for you today. So I hope as the conference goes on that you'll take an opportunity. There's a wonderful patio just out here to get out and catch a sunbeam or two because it's gorgeous outside as well. I was thinking about your theme, leadership, learning without boundaries, and I was reflecting on an experience I had a couple of weeks ago. San Mateo County has a youth commission of leaders from all the different high schools who come together, and once a year they do a conference. And I was invited to be part of the conference, and I went, and I was absolutely blown away by one of the activities that they did, where they brought in via cyberspace young leaders from all over the world, and there were kids from Africa and South America, Asia, and they had this amazing conversation about leadership, and it was all happening virtually in real time, and kids were in their homes all over the world sharing with the kids in San Mateo County what they thought about leadership as they move forward with their educations. And I think that's a really apt theme as far as looking at what you all are here today to learn about as far as learning without boundaries. We are in an unparalleled and unprecedented time, and I think one of the very most exciting times as we begin to bring and integrate all of the different wonderful innovations of technology into the classroom. I also have to say in San Mateo County, we're sort of on the northern edge of Silicon Valley. We're sort of south of San Francisco. We're the home to YouTube, which actually started just a couple of blocks away from where we are, above an Italian and Japanese restaurant. We have just lured Facebook into San Mateo County, so we're no strangers to technology and innovation. We welcome you and very much look forward to you taking the learnings that you take home with you from this conference and continue to connect with each other as well. So thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank you, Ann. Well, you know, LEAD 3.0 is a cooperative effort of 3 organizations. It's also a metaphor on 3 concepts. Those 3 organizations, the ideas of innovation, technology, and leadership. And those organizations are AXA, CUE, and TCAL. TCAL is hosted at the Santa Clara County Office of Education, where Santa Cruz County Office of Education. Their superintendent is not here, but Chuck is, so I just had to give a little plug. And to welcome us from Santa Cruz is Dr. Teresa Rouse.
People don't usually confuse Cruz and Clara often, but okay, George. On behalf of Santa Cruz County Office of Education and Michael Watkins, our county superintendent, I'd like to also welcome you to the conference. We're thrilled again to be able to be here and to publicly recognize the fact that regardless of Tier 3 flexible funding for educational technology money, it is our commitment to maintain the TCAL project in its form so that it can help service you throughout the state. So we're very proud to be able to do that and to continue that great work and to help support you as administrators across the state through the work of TCAL.
Thank you, Teresa. And I know we have some board of directors members who had their meeting on Wednesday here from Q. Can they stand up and be recognized? Thank you. And of course, my older colleague, Mike Lawrence, Q's executive director. I'm very pleased to welcome two of our officers from AXA, Alice Petrosian, our president. Alice, stand up. Someone who is no stranger to this event, but is also AXA's Vice President for Legislative Action, Lisa Gonzalez. And I know we have at least one board member in the audience. Rod, I see you over there. If we have any other AXA board members here today. Thanks for being here, Rod. I also like to recognize the steering committee, the group that put this event together, if they would all stand. Got all over the room. I think they're spread out. Thanks to all of you. Michael Simpkins is the one who does all the busy work organizing this event, and he's out doing it, I guess, that busy work. And is he there? Oh, right in front of me. I was having lunch with him. Come on. It's the glasses. And Jan Enzone from our staff takes care of the work with the hotel and the facilities, so we're very grateful for that. The nuts and bolts are done by those two people. We want you to personally investigate and thank all of our sponsors who have their tables in the hallways or have provided services to us, so please take time to do that. This afternoon, my slide is wrong, so is your program. Our apps with apps, speed apping, I like to call it, but they didn't go with that name, but I was doing the PowerPoint, so I thought I could use it anyway. If Mike can create a new verb, demcoing, I can create a new noun, apping. We'll be doing that at 4:45 to 6. It'll be at the far end of this room is where the tables will be set up, and we'll spill out into the lobby rather than in the lobby near where you registered, as your program and my slide shows you. And please do continue the conversation. Use the Lead3 hashtag. Sign on to Administrator 2.0 so that this conversation can continue wherever you go and into the future. With that, I'd like to introduce today's keynote speaker. We're delighted to have Alan November with us today. Alan's an international leader in education technology. In fact, if you read anything about the use of technology, it's hard not to find him cited. He began his career as an oceanography teacher at a reform school in the Boston Harbor. And while he was assisting Al Gore invent the internet, he created probably the very first student-created online resource that was a database for to support handicapped students. Alan's been a director, he's been an administrator, he's been a director of an alternative high school, computer coordinator, technology consultant, of course, university lecturer. Isn't that interesting that when you're associated with a university, your title is lecturer? He's helped schools, governments, and industry leaders improve the quality of education through technology. As we're recognizing that learning doesn't take place just in schools, and trying to figure out how to use things other than seat time to measure progress, we welcome Alan November as he addresses our theme, Learning Without Boundaries.
I'm your motivational speaker. You laugh at the right moments. That was good. Okay. You know, that was a good joke, by the way, the internet thing. I have to tell you, I've been reflecting. I think it's time to write my autobiography before it's too late. And in 1984, my roommate was an MIT guy and told me about this company that was connecting computers together across Greater Boston so that you wouldn't have to have your stuff on a computer, you'd have your stuff on the net. And I just thought, in 84, right? 84, cloud, we're just coming around to that. And 84. So in 84, there weren't any browsers. The only way to use what we now call the internet was to create something. You didn't look something up that other people already created. The only way to do it was to create something. And that meant heavy lifting of the mind. It meant that you taught kids to be creative, to invent. And the irony to me of what's happened since search engines were invented. In fact, if I could, am I on? 4 days ago, or 4 or 5 days ago, I'm just going to skip, and I'm a little random like this, but the introduction threw me. So, Wall Street Journal, Yale, and Google. Wall Street Journal, Yale, Google. Let's see if I'm still on. Anyway, this article, Wall Street Journal, Yale, Google, and Watergate. One more, Watergate. Yeah, there we go. There's the article. Wall Street Journal, Watergate. This is one of the scariest things I've ever read. This article explains that recently, at a journalism class at Yale, the professor gave an assignment that what would have happened if Bernstein and Woodward had the internet. Right? They asked class, what would have been different? Every single student at Yale taking journalism, no less, taking journalism, every single kid said, well, what's the big deal? We would have just Googled it, and we would have been done in an hour, sitting at a desktop. Well, they sent that result to Bernstein and Woodward. The professor at Yale is a friend, and he sent it to Bernstein and Woodward. You should read this article. And Bernstein and Woodward said, you're kidding. That took unbelievable amounts of work, tracking down sources and keeping notes and charts. And the kids, honest to God, they said, and the professors said, well, what would you search? And the kids at Yale all said, secret fund and Watergate. And we'd get it just like that off Google. And so when you read the article, you have to wonder, is that just a problem at Yale? Is that just that Yale attracts certain kids who've lost the ability to do incredibly difficult research, and that what it's come down to is just Google it and we're done? We can go on to the next problem? I don't think it's a Yale problem. I think it's a bigger than Yale problem. I think it's our problem. And years ago I made fun of this, but there was another article in the New York Times called The Dumbest Generation Ever. And when it came out, I thought that was a little harsh. But you know what? I gotta tell you, at this level, I have to wonder, what have we done? Now we, maybe not you, okay, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? And I gotta tell you what I've done. I have 2 kids, 22 and 24. And the 24-year-old got unbelievable test scores. We're talking massive academic scholarship without asking, private university in Boston, a good one, and saved me a lot of money. And she graduates a year early. She didn't have a job. No job. She's living with me, and I thought, test scores like that? Are you kidding me? That's my ticket. She's out economically. But I was wrong. I was wrong. And my son, who's 22, he was working part-time for Apple and going to college in Boston. He didn't get a scholarship. And great kid. And Apple says, don't go to college. We'll pay you. We'll give you a... My son's got stock options. He's 22, working for Apple full-time. He's not going to college. I like that plan. I'm going to tell you, I like that plan. Works till 3 o'clock in the morning now, working on stuff, preparing. He's a trainer, you know. He's always thinking and working, and he didn't do that in school. So my whole world is turned around. It's just turned around. So I've decided that getting high test scores is not sufficient. That's what I've decided. High test score is not sufficient. And yay. Oh, you feel my pain, don't you? Okay. Well, I just wish your kids move out. That's what I wish for you. I just hope you don't have to hope they move out like I do. In fact, if any of you have suggestions, someone actually did tell me that the way to do it is to hire 2 actors, a man and a woman, and the kids come home one day, and the man and the woman pretend to have bought my house. And the key doesn't work, but they knock on the door, and these people answer, and they say they live there now, and sorry, there's no forwarding address. There's just and then I pay off the actors, and I take my house back. I might do that. Anyway, I think we have to ask some really interesting questions. I want to figure out, not the answers. I'm not interested in the answers at the moment. I want to know, what are the questions? What are the most important questions that leaders should be asking at a time when Yale journalist students all think every last one of them, you just Google it. That's dangerous to me. I think we've lost a lot, frankly, in our techno-lusting orbits, of which I am a champion. And so I want to show you some things, and my only hope is that when you walk out of here after lunch, you might be asking questions you're currently not asking. I don't know what the answers are, but I hope you're asking some really interesting, deep questions about what is learning. In fact, yesterday I was in Napa. I spent the last couple of days in California getting acclimated. I'm finally mellowing out. Takes me a whole week to become Californian, by the way. I got to get those Birkenstock thing. Anyway, so I claimed that maybe let me just tell you a story. Mike knows. I've been talking to this guy named Chris Anderson. The last couple weeks, had a bunch of conversations. Chris Anderson runs TED. Have any of you heard of TED? TED? Okay, well, Chris Anderson runs TED. And I can't tell you, because I'm under embargo, but they're going to come out with some unbelievable tools for teachers this fall to organize massive amounts of content. I think it's going to be a really, really important announcement. That's all I can say. Chris Anderson. So we've been talking about teachers and who should be piloting this. What kinds of teachers would you select? He asked me, who would you select to pilot this very creative platform that he's building? So I don't know what qualities you would want in a teacher. If you were going to hire teachers this year, you're going to hire some teachers. Let's say you have them for 30 years. You're going to have, let's say you have teachers. How long do you have teachers? 30 years? I don't know. We'll make that up. 30 years. 20 years. All right, so here's what I told him. You think about what you would have told him. Here's what I told him. I told him that I thought the single most important skill of a teacher is to teach students how they learn. how they learn, that they ought to be able to demonstrate deep learning. See, ordinarily, we hire teachers for what they already know. That would be the old model, that you hire teachers for their knowledge, and they're going to transfer their knowledge in a classroom. But I think all that's going to move to the web. Given what I know that's in the pipeline, with Chris Anderson and others, oh my gosh, I'm meeting Sal Khan on Sunday for lunch in Boston. There's stuff coming that you no longer need to have a teacher transfer knowledge in a classroom. Teachers don't have a rewind button. I'll show you that in a moment, right? No rewind. So you got to ask yourself, in an age where children can access knowledge in any learning style imaginable, under their control, that matches their learning style, what's the added value of a teacher? Because the old value is going to go away. The old value, gone. You don't have to agree with me, but that's my opinion. Oh, was that a hallelujah? I couldn't tell. All right. All right. Here, here. All right. Now, boy, I got to move here. Okay. So my sense is learning to learn is a really important skill. Learning to learn. And those people who can sit down anywhere on the planet and we give them a challenge of a problem they've never seen before, and they can get it organized, and there's two skills I think are really important. Learning to learn and finding people anywhere on the planet to put on your team and making the team work. So there's two skills, I believe, make or break my kids moving out of my house. Put it bluntly, learning to learn. And unfortunately, my daughter, who's really, 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 really good at tests, she knows how to memorize. She's great. Oh, that skill's not so great, turns out, in the workplace. Just look it up. It's the people, okay, so we got learning to learn, and we got building global collaborations. Whoever can do that, building global collaborations. By the way, I'm just going to tell you, I evaluate a lot of schools' use of technology all over the country, about 30 in the last year, 30 districts, some private schools too. And I got to tell you, most classrooms are not globally connected. The irony of what I've just told you is those two skills are almost never taught in American education. Learning to learn and global collaboration. We have almost zero of that compared to what I've seen in other places. We're maybe at the bottom. All right, so I just offer that up to you as an observation. So I'm going to show you some things about if you thought those two skills were important, what would you do? What would you do next? And off we go. By the way, you'll note that I didn't say technology was a skill. I'm not really interested in technology, less and less. I'm interested in what the results are, not it. You know what the results are? In fact, I used to be a technology director. I was technology director in the high school where Ferris Bueller's Day Off was made. And I was. Glenbrook North High School, outside Chicago, going there tonight. And, oh man, if I go back, I'm not going to be a technology director. I'm going to be a learning design facilitator. I think learning design is going to supersede technology. I think technology is only a subset of the real problem at hand. And the problem is not technology. That's not a problem. That's a solution. The real problem is learning design. So I want to talk about learning design and how technology fits into that larger opportunity of really improving American education. Okie dokie. Off we go. So there's Watergate and the Yale guys. You might enjoy or get depressed reading that. I got depressed. I couldn't believe education at one of our top universities had come to that. I just couldn't believe it. But okay, now what I'd like you to do is take out your cell phone. And I know this is an odd thing for guy presenting to say, but I'd like you to take out your cell phone, and I'd like you to answer a question about photosynthesis. We're going to have a little lecture on photosynthesis. This wood, this oak, is a result of photosynthesis. Everybody in the room knows that. I could ask you, is this a result of photosynthesis? You'd say yes. But don't vote yet. Wait. So the molecules, the mass of that wood, the fiber, came from one of those four sources. The majority of the molecules came from either the sun, the air, the water, or the soil. I'd like you to text your answer, which is a number. The phone number itself is 37607. The phone number is like American Idol, 37607. That's phone number. And then pick the corresponding number. So don't text sun. If you think it's sun, it's 18751. You see how that goes? Yeah. And make a decision. Where do most of the molecules come from that go into the fiber of the wood? Kiln dried. Okay. I'll give a moment for that. Now, ordinarily, if you were doing this in the classroom, you wouldn't be showing the results like I am. I just want you to see what I see. But the pedagogy, in fact, I have, while you're doing this, I have 3 questions I hope leaders should ask. 1, who owns the learning? I think that may be the single most important question. Who owns the learning? In the 30 school districts we've gone into to evaluate their use of technology, 1 had students owning the learning. 1 out of the 30. That was amazing. I think, I don't have scientific data, but I have a feeling when students believe deeply that they own their own learning, they do better quality work than if the teacher owns the learning. I don't have any research on that. Somebody should write a dissertation, see whether this is right or not. But, oh my gosh, and I'm going to show you examples of student owning the learning in a moment. Then I have 2 more questions. Do the right people get the right information at the right time? Is an information question. And do we have the right relationships? Do we have the right human-to-human sense of community in our schools? Is it the right relationships? I think you need to get the information to the right people at the right time, and I think you have to have the right relationships. Then we can talk about technology. But I don't want to talk about technology first. There's some other things to talk about. All right, so take a look at this. And at best, the room did 56%. You failed. If the answer was, what is the answer? Water. If the answer is water, if the answer was soil, then you didn't do very good at all. 18, 19, 56. Okay. Now, hang on to that thought for a moment. I'm going to come back to this chart. I want to kind of stimulate your thinking about how you learn and why the room did so poorly. Got a bunch of very bright people in the room. All of you took photosynthesis, and you couldn't apply it. Your teacher never asked you an application question. That was an application question. In order to solve that problem, you would have to take a wild leap from memorization to application. I think that's where this country needs to go. From memorization to application. Common Core, right? All right, so here we go. I want to show you a video before I'm going to ask you to change your mind. And we're going to vote again. But just before we do that, I want to show you a process. This guy is my hero. I got to tell you. That's Eric Mazur. Eric. Boy, it's warm in here, isn't it? Is it warm in here? Eric Mazur is the Dean of Applied, oh, thank you. Dean of Applied Physics at Harvard. And Eric Mazur, I don't know, 15 or so years ago, went to a conference. And at the conference, there was a researcher who had divided physics professors into 4 groups. And he tried to figure out what's the added value of professors in the top group compared to the bottom group. How much more do you get from a professor who's the highest rated and has the most knowledge compared to professor lowest rated, least knowledge, right? What would your guess be as the difference between highest rated knowledge, lowest rated? No difference. No difference. And Mazur is sitting in the audience, and he's thinking, whoa, I'm at Harvard. By the way, Zuckerberg was in his physics class. I'm going to show you that in a moment. Zuckerberg did not invent Facebook. Mazur did. No, I'm going to show you. I'm serious about that. He did invent Facebook. And so Professor Mazur leaves the conference in denial. Absolute, not possible. And for the first time in his career, he pre-tests kids at Harvard in his classes. He had never pre-tested them. And then the data showed a 20% improvement, and that's what the data showed with any group of professors, a 20% improvement from baseline. Baseline. So if you had just shifted professors from this university to Harvard, you would have got the same results. Do you believe this? You believe? Here, let me just play some. Let me just play some. Oh, I need sound. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Over the years, he discovered that students in his introductory physics course were passing exams without having understood the fundamental concepts he was.
Do you believe that? Did you hear that? Right? Okay. How come a professor at Harvard can claim that you can get really high test scores but not be able to apply what you've learned? I think that's an astonishing admission. I do. And I don't think that problem is limited to Harvard. I think maybe some of you have that problem, where you've got really bright kids who are really good at playing the game of regurgitating content, but not understand calculus or physics or organic chemistry or the rest of it. That would be horrible if I'm telling the truth. I want to be wrong. I want to be so wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. I need you to tell me. I need to feel better. But let's see what he does.
To teach. In response to this problem, Professor Mazur developed a variety of interactive techniques linked to each other in ways that help his students learn basic concepts far better than before. Requiring students to read, think, and reflect before the lecture is the first step in Professor Mazur's.
Okay, that is the first version of Facebook. That's what Mark Zuckerberg saw when he walked into Mazur's classroom as a physics student. This is before Facebook. Without any question, that is not a joke. Mazur did invent Facebook. The reason he invented Facebook is because of his pain of realizing that he wasn't getting the results. Test scores were not an indicator. So then what do? Well, as a scientist, he went off and studied the brain. And he did some other things, Socrates, and he did a pretty thorough review of research and the literature, and he had time to do it. Most of you, you're too busy running schools to spend a lot of time researching learning. That's a weird thing to say, isn't it? Anyway, okay, so here's what he learned. By the way, you stop me when you think any of this is false. At Harvard, and I got to tell you in a moment, maybe I'll put it all together. I'm going to show you a little bit more. Just let me tell you that what you can't read there are students' questions. I better explain it now. Two things have to be fundamentally changed before we can talk about technology. Two things. One is lesson plan. The concept has to be completely thrown out. We have to get rid of what we know as lesson plans. Lesson plans have nothing to do with student mastery, but everything to do with covering the curriculum. Whether or not students learn isn't the point. Lesson plans, as we know them, are designed to get you from point A to the end one day after another, regardless of whether every student masters content along the way. Fair enough? Tell me I'm wrong. Not wrong. All right. So, the question for leaders, what information is the most valuable information for a teacher to have to be the best teacher? What is the single most valuable source of information? No. No. The most valuable source of information, according to Mazur, I'm just the messenger, don't kill me, are the questions and misconceptions in students' minds. If you really want to have added value as a teacher, knowledge is easy. Everybody has knowledge. I can get calculus at Khan. The added value of a teacher is drawing out the questions and confusion in every child's mind. That's the most important information. Most teachers don't have it. The way to get it is you build a community like Facebook and you change the design of homework that every student has to ask questions after they watched whatever they watched. Most teachers don't have that. What a change when you give teachers all that content. Because what that means is that homework is in class. We all know this as the flip, but this is the super flip. I'm going past the flip. So what Mazur figured out is that his own knowledge was actually in the way. I know this is going to sound like the dumbest thing a keynote can tell you. But Mazur is convinced that the more you know about your subject, the less you know about how a first-time learner approaches that subject. I know that is so counterintuitive because you hire people for what they know. I mean, this is ridiculous if I'm telling you the truth. Now, and some of you clapped, you must agree. So, in fact, Mazur now has a database of 3,000 questions, tagged, whether it's calculus application, acceleration, velocity, experimental design. He has 3,000 questions that his students have been asking over the year over his Facebook-like world. Most teachers don't have 3,000 questions from students they've been teaching over the years. They've never added it up. No patterns of questions. Well, if you did, then what happens next? If you know your stuff, you got to really know your stuff. You really do have to know your stuff, but you have to understand learning and how it fits in. So in knowing your stuff, you got to look at the questions and figure out what problems to give to get the question passed. You really have to know your stuff. All right. So we're going to change. Lesson plans are now going to be based on students' questions, not the knowledge of a teacher. And homework is going to happen in class because the other thing Mazur discovered is that the brain is always learning. You can't turn it off. Good luck turning it off. You can't turn it off. We're learning all the time. And the research is crystal clear. The ideal learning environment gives the learner less than a half a second response of how well they're doing. So if you're a coach, this is obvious. If you're teaching kids to shoot, from the foul line, you don't tell them where the ball went the next day. You don't do that. They see where the ball went as soon as they shoot it, and the coach is right there, ideally, right there. Like last night, I saw Gruden. Gruden? Who's Gruden? He's a come on. He's coaching your guy, Locke, the Stanford guy. The Stanford guy is going to go #1 to the Colts. Did you know? You know what I'm talking about? Come on, it's your neighborhood. And Brady is from San Mateo. Okay. Now, but whether it's Brady or Luck, the quarterback coach is right there. Immediate feedback. If you immediate feedback to an athlete and you delay it 24 hours, good luck hoping that guy is going to be a world-class athlete. Good luck. Try that. Try that. Well, we do that every day to kids in algebra and physics and chemistry. I mean, we do that every day. That's wrong. That's wrong. Okay. So Missouri figured out no more homework because that actually complicates learning if you don't give them immediate feedback. Where do you see what TED comes out with this fall? Immediate feedback. Okay. So two things are happening in your school system. Forgive me for claiming this. Number one, your teachers don't have the right information to be the best they can be. And number two, your students don't have the right information either. Well, you can't succeed. You can add technology all day long. You give every kid a laptop. You give every kid an interactive board. Every teacher, go ahead. Just lay it out there. Good luck. There are other problems to solve first. Okay. Now, is my attitude okay? It's a little rough. Is my attitude, but, you know, I'm from Boston.
Process.
Okay.
He also uses the course website to monitor their learning and communicate with his students.
I don't go into the classroom lecturing on what I think they need. No, they tell me what it is that they want me to cover.
It was helpful for Professor Mazur to answer those questions that we had. And sometimes, like, it didn't feel embarrassing at all.
See, what's interesting is face-to-face, he has 100 kids. I've sat in his classroom. I've watched. I've been there. And I'm just going to tell you, I sat in the same exact classroom when I was a student in computer science at Harvard. Same room. They have changed. Whoa, what a difference. My professor told me, look to your left, look to your right. One of them will be gone by the end of this week. And they were proud of that. Missouri wants to save everybody. Okay, so the huge difference. And in a classroom of 100 people, maybe 5 kids at Harvard raise their hand. The other 95 have questions, but they're not going to raise their hand. Ferris Bueller, they're not going to raise their hand. But online, this is why Missouri invented Facebook. Online, you get 100 out of 100. What a difference. So every teacher needs an online community. I don't think there's any question about that now. Every single teacher needs a robust online community. Let's not argue that one. That's very obvious, to me anyway. Okay, here we go.
All if he addressed your specific question because the whole thing was anonymous.
So the idea is to teach by questioning rather than telling.
Teach by questioning rather than by telling. Well, walk down the hallway of a middle school and a high school, and you will often hear teachers telling kids the answer. They just tell them. If that kid raises his hand, teacher tells them the answer. It's not so good. We've inherited it, so we keep doing it. We don't have to do it. Teaching by questioning, I believe, is much more powerful than teaching by telling. I've seen both models. That's very Socratic. Socrates? No, not a new idea. It's an ancient idea. Unfortunately, we got rid of the Socratic method in about the 1920s and 30s when the Carnegie Forum invented the Carnegie Unit, and textbook companies quickly followed so that Algebra 1 would look the same coast to coast, because the universities wanted that. We got rid of the teaching by questioning, and we went to teaching by telling somewhere around 1924 on a Sunday afternoon at 6 o'clock. You know, it was, and unfortunately, that was probably a really bad turn that you've inherited. All right, next.
I will talk a few minutes and then put on the overhead projector a question. And then I tell them, take a minute to think about it. They think about it. And after they've thought about it, I need to get some feedback on their answers.
All right, this is another example of what a lot of teachers don't have this information. Missouri has unbelievable amounts of information. The green bar is the correct answer, which is the plurality, but the majority of the students are incorrect. They've watched the video, they've asked the questions, he gave them a problem he thought matched the question, and clearly they can't apply the knowledge. Now, I asked you about photosynthesis, so we're going to go back to that one in a moment now as I show you the next part, and we're going to see if this theory works for you.
So turn to your neighbor and see if you can convince one another of the correct choice.
Turn to your neighbor. It turns out that in Mazur's quest to get past the 20% average that any teacher could achieve, given the baseline of those kids, the baseline, he discovered that learning is social. Go figure. He discovered that teenagers and preteens like to talk to one another. That when you let them out of school, that's what they do. They talk to each other. In school, not so much. Out of school, a lot. So he decided to go back to Socrates and bring out some social engagement. And the way he did it is that every single day you go to that classroom, all semester long, you have to defend your answer and question your neighbor many times during a class period, every single day. Question and defend, question and defend. And it turns out, if you do that all semester long, you learn how to question. And it turns out learning how to question within any subject you're learning is a really important thing to do. Learning how to question. The answers are all there, but learning how to question, that's not on the internet. That wasn't at Yale, right? You can't Google the questions that you got to ask at that moment. Where those kids at Yale messed up. What's the question? Now, I'm going to ask you to turn to your neighbor in a moment, and I'm going to do what Mazur does. I'm going to make it more complicated. Not less, more complicated. And I'm going to ask you to think about 3 things with your neighbor, discuss these 3 things, and then defend your answer if you really want to, and question your neighbor. Here's the 3 things. And don't blurt out the answers, keep them to yourself for now. What's the dominant molecule of oil? What's the original source for oil? Where does oil come from? Where's oil? And the rainforest is moderating the temperature of the planet, according to climatologists, because something is going on in the dynamic of a tree growing in the forest and the atmosphere. What's going on? I bet everybody in the room knows that you can get carbon offsets, right? You buy some trees and you plant them, and that way you're taking care of the gasoline you're burning in your car or the flight I'm going to take, right? So what's going on between trees and the atmosphere? At your table, please discuss these 3 things. What's the dominant molecule of oil? Where does oil come from? And what is going on with trees and the atmosphere? Then we're going to vote again. What time is it? Dead animal life. Yeah. Eric Missouri.
His video is on YouTube, right?
Get that right. And I'm going to show you another one too. Is this okay? The top one. What? What change? You want change? You're keeping your answer? The answer's a photosynthesis. Have you changed your mind? You changed your mind? All right, if you could finish up, 1 minute, 1 minute. Okay, that's enough photosynthesis. That's enough. Even if you're not done, and I didn't give you enough time, I know I didn't, but I got to sit with the schedule. So if you could vote again, 37607, the same phone number. Oh, I didn't tell you, if you have Twitter, go to @poll and type in one of the numbers, or you have a web device, an iPad, go to pollev.com/ACIS and type in a number. Any device, we can get you the input. Any device, which I like. I like. All right. Yeah, it's the same question. Oh, it's the same question. Sorry. I should have made that clear. It's the same exact question. Yes, I know it's the same question. I got to measure if there's been a difference. The Siri? Okay. Now, in the interest of time, I got to keep moving. So I'm just going to, well, you know what? We can let it go. We can let it go. But at this point, what a difference in the results. That's an amazing difference. And the answer, indeed, is air. You're actually getting worse right now. So you were up to 86%. The answer is air. Carbon dioxide comes in, oxygen goes out. The plant keeps the carbon. The plants decay. The carbon, oil becomes carbon. Carbon atmosphere makes the planet heat up. Carbon dioxide. Any of you know this stuff? Yeah. What's interesting is you do know this stuff. You do know it. You actually do know it. You just couldn't answer the question. Now that really interests me, and I know why. If the theory holds, you were told the answer. You were told. You didn't think. You didn't have a teacher like Mazur who gave you a storyline and the atmosphere and the trees and the oil thing, plants decaying, and you need that. You need a lot more detail, and you got to give people time to talk to one another and think things through. Then you can learn. But just telling you the answer, I don't know. In fact, yesterday in Napa, I met two amazing teachers who are doing the flip. And I met some more down in near San Luis Obispo earlier in the week. And the guy teaching physics near Napa told me that when he does the conversations with the kids just try to find a kid they think is the smartest kid, and they just say, "What's the answer?" Do you realize that the learning culture we've inherited actually rewards children just for getting the right answer but not really understanding the right answer. And this physics professor, not the physics professor, the physics teacher yesterday in Napa said, do you know what we have to do? We have to teach kids to unlearn how they've been taught, and he told me that takes a couple of weeks. That takes weeks to finally teach kids, look, the right answer is not the point. The point is, can you think about this content and apply it? All right, now, just for amusement, I thought it might be fun, because some of you might be thinking, nah, I did know it. It's just been a while since I was in school, and I forgot, or some other incorrect understanding. So let me show you this video of
Here's a seed.
Okay.
Harvard.
Okay. Now hold on to that for a second.
Harvard graduation day. Ask the same question I asked you.
Okay.
Imagine that I planted that in the ground.
Okay.
And a tree grew. All right. And here is a piece of that tree.
Sure.
Okay. Now, where did all that stuff come from?
Well, you mean where did the mass come from? The added mass that this is now a much larger, heavier tree, and this is a very small seed. The mass came from a lot of things, I'd guess. I'd guess from water.
Nope. Okay. Nope. Okay. Save your time. He's wrong. She's wrong. She's wrong. He's wrong. Then, here's the best part for me on the amusing part. They tell them the answer. They tell them. By the way, I've had teachers respond the same way. They tell them the answer. I'm just intrigued by how they respond to the answer. This guy stumbles all over the place. But let me play the next one.
Could be used from,
This woman,
could come from carbon
young
dioxide as
woman,
an initial building block, sure.
he's kind
What
of,
would you say to someone who told you that the weight of the tree came mostly from the carbon dioxide in the air?
I would say that's very disturbing.
yep, that's disturbing. That person should be locked up. Who thought of that? You can't even tell some people the answer. It just slides right off. That's got to be the penultimate definition of arrogance. You get a Harvard degree, and 30 seconds later, you deny photosynthesis. I mean, it's like, what are we doing? All right, so you're still with me, aren't you? Okay. So what I'm going to suggest is I actually do like technology. I love technology, but I really, really worry that unless we change the culture of our classrooms, and unless we give teachers access to information that I don't think most of them have, and unless we give children immediate feedback, and unless we make things more complicated and ask people to connect the dots so they have a mental model of how everything fits together, this teaching by telling has got to go. It has to go. And I don't know, now we got to get the teachers union in here, the CTA, we got to get those guys, and we got to say, well, the teachers' evaluation system is going to have to be rewritten because you can't do what you're doing. And administrators too, you got, you know, your own thing, but we've got to change a lot of stuff. And by the way, also on the amusing side, just for you seem to enjoy like me, you seem to enjoy. I want to show you this other little video. They come in a set. These are kids on a playground who are asked the same question I asked you and the Harvard kids. And
it's a maple seed. Okay.
Let me skip that guy. He doesn't. She's interesting. I like her.
It. How do you think we got that out of this?
Well, I think you planted what are these called?
Seeds.
I think you planted the seeds into the ground, and then you put water on them, and then when the sun comes.
Yep. No air. No air. So the interesting thing is, if I let you listen to the Harvard students give the same answer she gave. But in between, they went to school, right? You would think, wouldn't you think, school would add some value? Some value. No, not in this case. Okay, so, you're a fun group. But you understand there's another thing going on. Okay, besides the whole process of making things more complicated and getting people the right information, it turns out that if you had a misconception when you were in elementary school and teacher put the seed in the cup and told you to put it on the windowsill and the sun comes out, you got to water the thing or it dies, but the teacher probably never explained carbon dioxide is actually the building block of the material of the plant. You probably never got that part. So your brain recorded a misconception. And then you went outside for the next 10 years and you saw trees growing, and that was reinforced with your own experience. And then you had a biology teacher in high school who tried to undo that, but it was too late. You had a misconception, and unlearning a misconception takes phenomenal teaching. That is not a telling experience. You have to then do this complicated thing. How does it all fit together? All right, so I'm pretty thrilled that we can do this. I don't think this is going to take a lot of money, in fact. I don't even think it's going to take money. I've met a bunch of teachers this week in California who are doing the flip. And here's what I would do to get started, though. Just down the coast, we got anybody from Santa Monica in the room? Santa Monica? One of my favorite teachers in the country is a sixth grade math teacher in Santa Monica named Eric Marcos. And Eric and I, over the last 10 years, have become friends. And I want to show you his website. This is about who owns the learning, which is, I want to bring us back to that question. Assuming the teacher gets the right information and kids get the right information and the right conversation, let's say we can do that. I want to show you this website is the only website I know in the country where there is a tutorial on every problem in the course designed by children. So, play one for you. This one's been seen over 22,000 times. And there's others. I mean, it's not rocket science. Don't get all anticipated, by the way. I don't want to disappoint you. None of this is rocket science. This is just some kid.
Hi, I'm Bob, and I'm going to show you how to do prime factorization. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a factor tree. A factor tree is you take a number, such as the number 32, and you break it up into its prime factors. So 32, we're going to break it up into the numbers 2 and 16. So we're going to try to get it down to all prime numbers. A prime number is when a number is only divisible by 1 in itself. 32 is
all right, you get it, right? It's, in case you're dying to know, it's 2 to the 5th. There, it's 2 to the 5th. But I want to play the end. I want to jump to the end.
This, which are 2 and 2. Now we're going to keep going. 4 is divisible by 2 and 2. We're going to circle those. And we're going to write out all of the 2s. All the circle numbers are 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which again is 2 to the 5th power, which is the same answer as we got for the other problem. So this is the prime factorization of the number 32. Well, thanks for listening. I'm Bob, and
goodbye. Now, I want to break this down. I know this girl. I have flown this girl and her mother from LA to Boston last 3 years to present for me. I do a little summer conference, and she's amazing. She's in high school now. So I've talked to her about this, and I've talked to kids. I've shown this to kids all over the world. Australia, England, Sweden. And in fact, just to give you a sense of how I'm not really exaggerating, I've actually met kids in the world who have said to me, oh, I know that site. And I'm looking at these kids going, what are you talking about? You know the site? And just to give you a sense, Eric has installed a little tool that keeps track of where people in the world happen to be who use his site and the time of the day. So at this moment, since I've been presenting to you at 12:30, in the last less than an hour from Puerto Rico, Ohio, Canada. If this were 3 o'clock in the morning here, that would read Brisbane, Moscow, Mumbai, and Beijing. 24 hours a day. People all over the world are accessing this website to learn pre-algebra. It's really fascinating. So I'm going to put a couple dots together. I'm going to, number one, I think we have underestimated children making a contribution to help other children learn. When you look at the research, crystal clear. Peer tutoring is in the top 5 of any intervention you can do, as long as the content is accurate. Peer tutoring is in the top 5. Go check out John Hattie's work, meta-analysis of all education research. But most schools don't pay attention to research. And I don't know why, but we're so busy running them, we don't kind of stop for a moment and kind of get a grip. And so in that classroom, this little girl, and I just want to show you these are all the states that have gone there. I'm going to blow this up for you. You can see these are the countries that have visited that site. That's a lot of countries. And you ever talk to a 12-year-old who knows that more than 100 countries have seen their stuff? 100 countries seen their stuff. That's better than getting an A from a teacher. I think there's a couple things that motivate kids that we don't take advantage of, and I gotta motivate kids. I gotta get these kids on fire. And one of the things I've learned, in fact, I'll tell you this story. There was a private school near Santa Barbara, I won't mention, a little residential thing with horses. Anyway, and I got invited to present there years and years ago. At the time, my 24-year-old was 12, and she was into Harry Potter. And she was upset that J.K. Rowling wasn't pumping a book out every day. My daughter can read 950 pages a night. She's unbelievable what she can do. Shoom. So she's frustrated. She goes to the web. She types in Harry Potter, and she finds fanfiction.net. And on that website are 500,000 kids writing in the style of J.K. Rowling, chapters. And Jessie, my daughter's in heaven. She's reading, and she's happy, and she's got friends around the world, and she's critiquing them. There's a little critique thing. And then she finally decides she's going to launch a contest, an award, like the Pulitzer, but hers is going to be called the Golden Cauldron, and it's for the best rip-off style for J.K. Rowling's work. And she sends out the word across this community of hundreds of thousands of kids, and she gets submissions. Submissions are coming in. And I said, Jessie, do they know you're 12? And she said, no, and don't you tell them, Daddy. So she gets all these admissions, and the winner, by the way, is an 18-year-old kid in London, A-level kid, you know, and but runner-up was 12, and Jessie shows me her work. I said, I want to see this kid. This kid was an unbelievable writer. Chapter after chapter, 12 chapters in a portfolio of work, comments from around the world, astonishing. And I used to show that to kids. And then I was in this school down the coast, and I showed this, and I didn't realize the girl was in the room. She's in the room. Oh my God, what an embarrassing moment. And there's this hubbub, the kids are pointing and they're laughing at me, and I invited her up. And she taught the other kids how she got the account and how she meets people and how she got better, and that was an amazing moment. It's just this kid was on fire. And so I'm packing up, she leaves, class leaves, and her English teacher stays. And I'm thinking, oh, she's going to congratulate me for highlighting one of their students. And she was furious with me. She said, you didn't do a good thing here today. And I said, oh, what happened? And she said, you made that girl appear as if she is a good student, and she's not. And I'm standing there thinking, uh-oh, where's this, what did I do? And I didn't know, I just didn't know. So I apologized, I said, I didn't know. And I said, why, what's with her in your class? And she said, oh, she doesn't do any work. She doesn't do any work, doesn't participate. You made her sound like she's all over the world participating. And I apologized. I said, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to embarrass you. But it was an overnight stay, and I had dinner with the kids. So I went to find this little girl. And I said, what's with your class? I taught your English teacher, and she says you're not participating, not doing your homework. What's up? And she looked at me like in this duh moment. She looked at me, and she said, well, yeah, that's right. But, you know, I have to make an important decision when I wake up. When I wake up, I have to decide, am I going to publish for my teacher or the world? What will I do? My teacher or the world? What should that look like? And that was before Facebook. This is I thought, this is the only kid I'm ever going to meet in my life who has stuff on the internet. I didn't get it. I thought, all right, that's a one shot. That'll never happen to me again. I will never see another bored kid who has a global audience instead of an audience of one, their teacher. Boy, was I wrong. Turns out there's millions of kids like that. I was so wrong. So the fact that you're looking at all those countries with a teacher's website in Santa Monica who teaches 6th grade math, every teacher's going global. Every teacher. We can take every teacher and we can teach them appropriate moral, social responsibility with high ethics, how to publish student work, so that children not only are taught content, but courage. So you need courage to present yourself to the world. You have to have courage. And I think we have to teach children to be fearless learners. Fearless. And one way to do it is you publish them globally. Otherwise, an audience of one, that isn't going to work for every kid in the same way as global publishing. All right, the second thing I want to point out, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Go away. I didn't mean that. The other thing I want to point out in this tutorial is I'm very influenced by Dan Pink. And Dan Pink reveals some research that the more we grade children for creative work, the less they'll do. Until finally, kids will say, what do I need to do to get an A? And that's all they'll do. They'll just do whatever it is to get an A. Or a B. They don't even care about the A. They'll just say, what do I need to do to get a C? My son thought C was average. And he got C's. I said, Dan, why are you getting C's? He says, my teacher told me that's average. I want to be average. I said, oh, no. We got to redo that one. And so the tutorial I showed you, do you remember it had two? I got to get back to it real quick. I think I wiped it out. I just want to show you what she did. She did something very clever. If you're a math teacher, you might have caught it. But let me kind of spin out to the end. Yeah.
We're going to write out all of them.
Okay. So I asked her, I said, why'd you do it twice? By the way, can you tell why she did it twice? She did it twice. You can? I didn't know. I didn't understand until she explained it to me. Why'd you do it twice? And she said, well, first time, I just did it once. And I sent that to some friends. And I asked them to do some more problems to see if they could. And it turned out that all my friends thought you had to start with a prime number, 2. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I better show them that you don't have to start with prime numbers as the first 2 factors. You can start with other numbers like 8 and 4 instead of 2 and 16. If you're a math teacher, you'll appreciate the subtlety of what she did. And so I show this to kids, like I said, and I've asked kids, what do you think? And the kid in Brisbane a couple of weeks ago, I was in Australia, kid said, oh, I prefer to learn like that. And I said, how come? And he's sitting next to his teacher. I said, how come? And he looks up at his teacher. Kid was a pretty smart diplomat. He says, my teacher knows too much. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, my teacher teaches as if you understand it the first time. And I don't get it the first time. That has a rewind button. I can slide that back until I learn it. I want to learn like that. Plus, she's talking to me. She knows how a kid listens. Do you believe this? that children would prefer content generated by children when they don't understand something in class for their review. I think that's great. So, moving forward, knowing what's coming with TED this fall, which I can't tell you much more about, the first thing I would do is I would challenge my teachers with the kids maybe in the same meeting and unleash an army of creative problem solvers designing solutions across the curriculum, from kindergarten through AP Physics. Every teacher, I think, should value the role of children as a contributor. And that's mathematics. Easy. By the way, you go to Jing, the software's free, the website's free. We're talking free here. Kids work for free. And it will add so much value. It'll be unbelievable. Oh, and I can't help myself. So one last little query I had. I talked to the girl who designed it. By the way, her real name's not Bob, but they have pseudonyms to protect the kids with their school policy. It's Santa Monica. All good. And I said, who benefits the most? Do you benefit, or do all the people watching benefit more than you? She said, I benefit the most. I got that one wrong, too. I thought she was going to say the world is lucky I live, you know. She didn't say that. She said, I benefit. I said, why do you benefit? And she said, well, homework, I never really learn it. I just get it done so I can get a check off. That takes me 7 minutes, do homework. That took me 3 hours. That was 3 hours. That's a 3-minute video. It took her 3 hours. And I said, what's the difference, 3 hours, 7 minutes? It's only one problem. She said, no. She says, in order to teach it, you really have to learn it. I never really had to learn it. She owns the learning. You see the difference between a teacher owning the learning? Kid does the homework, doesn't really have to learn, isn't really worried about it. But if you're going to teach the world how to factor, you own it. It's your responsibility. What a difference in motivation and drive. All right, so just to give another example, they have given me permission to go a little over in time. I'm not just screwing up here, right? But I need to check in. How much time? 10 more? Is it okay? No book signing. You didn't need to buy my book anyway. Let's see. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. DGH dot. I'm going to show you a social studies version. Math, you might just think, oh, it's just math. But I want to show you a textbook written by kids in Ohio. This is a wiki. Doesn't matter that it's a wiki, by the way. I don't care what technology it is. All I care about is the content. And I used to teach history. And if you scroll through this, this is the opening on what is history. And it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. And this is built by kids over the years. It's a legacy of work that helps kids in subsequent years. By the way, that's an interesting question. How much work that your children do in your schools adds value to the world? Or how much is just for a grade? You sort that out. Go back to your schools and find out what's the proportion of work that has purpose, adds value to the world, or is it only for a grade? I think that's a really interesting question. All right, so this has purpose. And I'm going to show you. I hope you laugh at this one, too. At the bottom, here's this kid. So 3 years after he helps contribute to that chapter, he's in high school. And he writes back to his teacher, how often do one of your middle school teachers get an email like this? You know, I've been thinking about the essay I wrote 3 years ago, and I'd like to redo it. Do you ever get that? You don't get that. These teachers get that all the time. The difference of children making a contribution and feeling responsible for the quality of the work compared to only getting a grade is enormous. And if you need another YouTube video to support that contention, I would urge you to go to YouTube and type in Dan Pink and Drive, and RSA Animate, who've done the research on purpose and how important purpose is. Drive, Dan Pink, and RSA. Here, I just want to get you started. That's what it looks like. RSA Animate, Drive. How many of you have read Drive in the room? Whoa, oh, whoa. Okay, the rest of you, don't even buy the book. Just go to YouTube. And you know, who reads anymore? Anyway, I mean, so you get this here. Well, you'll see this come up.
Are unbelievable.
Here, I'm going to turn off the sound. It turns out there are 3 motivators that work for kids, work for adults. 3 motivators. One is purpose. I've already discussed purpose. We can create legacy. It's amazing. The other 2 are autonomy and mastery. It turns out that people who are self-directed, who feel like they own their quality of work better than people who are externally rewarded and don't own their learning or their work. So mastery, autonomy, and purpose. As you go through your schools, ask that question. How much work is built on purpose, mastery, and autonomy? And watch that first, and then go off to your schools, and I think that's an important question for leaders to ask. All right, let me kind of, you're so distracted, I can tell. Let me make that go away. But all you have to do, Drive, Dan Pink, RSA gets you the graphic one. Drive, Dan Pink, RSA. Okay. Let me, by the way, I've learned that California has this really weird law that if everyone doesn't have equal access to something, you can't even do it. Do you know what I'm talking about? What's that called? Besides, yeah, a parent can come and say, my kid doesn't have equity. So, yeah, okay, good. You know what it is. Great. So yesterday, I was in this workshop and they said, well, whoa, you can't do that. All the kids don't have internet at home. You can't do that. Parents are going to come in and complain. And then they told me about this law. I said, whoa, wait a minute. All those videos, that can go on a DVD. That's 25 cents. DVD. Go get a stack of 100. 25 cents. And a lot of kids who don't have internet, they've got game machines. They have a Xbox. And they got a DVD with their color TV. So all you got to do, don't even worry about the internet. What are you talking about? Just get all those videos onto a DVD. Give it to every kid. Use their remote. Now you've just cut down on the number of kids who don't have a DVD, which in this country, other than the homeless, and I understand that, I do, but we're hitting 98% roughly DVD. So you can't tell me about equity. We got access. And open up your library and, you know, come on. I hear too many excuses why we can't do this. Drives me crazy. All right, let's see. I got one last story maybe in me. I think that'll be it. Then I'll let you go. Reading is important. Reading, first grade. Let me jump to little tiny kids, and because you've probably been bored silly if you're an elementary person. Let's see. Kathy Cassidy is a first grade teacher in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. And I fly Kathy too. She gets on airplanes for me and does workshops. And so April 17th, Kathy's class in Moose Jaw set out the latest video in mathematics. And they've already had 3,000 people read that from around the world. Where do you see their map? Their map is better than the guy in Santa Monica, Moose Jaw. And what's interesting to me, that one's had almost 7,000 on a painting thing. And then they got this one. This kid thinks he's Van Gogh and put together a little video of what makes a Van Gogh. And they put that out. And that one's had 4,000 reads and drawing like Van Gogh. And what's interesting about that is a couple days before that, this class in Greece saw their video, and the class in Greece made a video and sent it to them. And this goes on and on. You go through this website, and it's stuff from all over the world coming into this one little first grade classroom in Moose Jaw. Because the more you teach first graders to create documentaries of how they learn, if you've got a first grade teacher who's taught kids to create documentaries, everything from art to math, science, the weather in Moose Jaw, more. This website's unbelievable. And because yesterday I got this conservative business guy came to me and said, no, we got to do content instead of process. You're talking too much process. We got to focus on content. And I said, look, I'm good with content. You can get more out of it if you have good process. And he finally agreed. So I just want to show you. This is, Redwood City, Spring Grove, Illinois, Somerset. AR. No, it's not Arkansas. No, it's not Arizona. I'll show you what it is in a moment. And no, it's not AR. No, guys. Oh, look. Here, I'm going to show you what AR is. No. I don't know what it is either, but it's US if it was Arkansas. It's let's see, site colon, here. I know how the web works. Site colon, AR, and I'll tell you what AR is. It's probably Argentina. It's Argentina. AR is not Arkansas, it's Argentina. In fact, you know what? I better do a quick lesson for you on how the internet works. Watch this. I'll go talk real quick. I can end. I have 1 minute. Thanks for hanging with me. Thanks for hanging with me. All good. All good. All good.